Some places whisper, others scream, and then there are places that remember. Long before satellite maps and concrete highways, before the names America or Europe ever appeared on a chart, there were civilizations. Entire worlds built by hands that left behind no history books, just stone. Stone foundations buried in forest. Stone pyramids erased from memory. And cities carved into mountains, then forgotten for millennia. But what if they were never meant to be forgotten? Today, scientists scan mountains with ground-penetrating radar. Robotic divers descend into oceans where no sunlight reaches. And satellites reveal structures that have no explanation unless someone was building before us. In this episode of Uncharted Mysteries, we're peeling back the Earth's surface to uncover stories etched in ice and silence. We'll begin with Blood Mountain, Georgia, where a Cherokee legend speaks of a battle so brutal the land was cursed. Then we'll journey into the icy grip of Antarctica, where a centuries-old map may show a continent without ice when it shouldn't have existed. We'll explore the bone-layered ruins of South Africa, the sealed tombs of ancient gladiators, and the stone jars of Assam, carved by hands we still can't identify. Each of these places carries a signature, an echo of something once known, now obscured. And for many in the older generation, those who remember the moon landing, the Cold War, or black and white newsreels, you've lived through eras of secrecy and revelation. What if the biggest secrets were never in files or vaults, but buried beneath your very feet? This isn't just a tour of ancient places. It's a confrontation with time itself. So stay with us and subscribe if you haven't already, because these stones have waited long enough. Let's listen to what they've been trying to say. The Earth remembers, and now it's speaking. There are places that feel heavy, not because of altitude, but because of memory. Blood Mountain, nestled deep within the Appalachian wilderness of northern Georgia, is one of them. This name alone sets a tone. But this isn't just folklore branding. It comes from a chilling legend passed down through Cherokee oral history. According to the tale, this mountain was the site of a bloody war between the Creek and Cherokee peoples. A battle so brutal the land itself turned red. And some say it never quite healed. Today, hikers report far more than just breathtaking views. People speak of footsteps crunching behind them with no one in sight, of whispers in dead silence, felt not just in the ears, but deep in the bones, and of shadowy figures, half seen through the trees, watching from the edge of vision. One hiker described it as being followed by something older than man. Another, a retired army vet, said he saw flickers of light dance across the trail, like Morse code in the fog. There were no cell towers, no other people, and no rational explanation. Skeptics have blamed atmospheric effects, like light refraction or sound distortion. Others argue it's just pareidolia, our brain assigning patterns to random shadows. But here's the thing. Why do so many of these unexplained phenomena happen in places that have violent histories? Could trauma imprint on geography? Could the mountain remember? Interestingly, Blood Mountain also sits on a web of geomagnetic anomalies. Compass readings have been known to skew. Birds change flight paths, and animals grow unusually restless near certain rocky outcrops. To some, this is just the wild doing what the wild does. But others suggest there's a more ancient, perhaps intentional design behind this. As if the mountain was selected, maybe even engineered as a kind of gate. A gate to what, though? That's where the mystery deepens. In Cherokee belief, certain mountain peaks were seen as portals, places where the physical world brushes up against the spiritual. Blood Mountain was one of those sites. It wasn't just a battleground. It was a threshold. And now, centuries later, as more hikers report dizzy spells, lost time, or feeling observed in specific zones of the trail, one has to ask, are we really alone when we walk these ridgelines? Or is the mountain still watching? In a world obsessed with digital mysteries, we often overlook the ones just beyond the tree line, where nature hasn't forgotten, and neither has history. But this is just one mountain. There are others. Mountains that hide cities, mountains that hold pyramids, and even mountains where ice, not blood, covers the truth. Let's go deeper, to a place colder, stranger, where an ancient map might show what the Earth looked like before we were ever here. Antarctica, the southernmost point on Earth. A frozen tomb for millennia, or so we've been told. But what if I told you someone drew a map of it accurately for 100 years before we even knew it was there? Enter the Piri Reis map. Discovered in 1929, this tattered parchment was created by an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis in 1513. It's one of the oldest surviving world maps, and the most controversial, because it shows something that, by every measure of modern science, shouldn't be there. Near the bottom edge of the map, amid strange annotations in Ottoman Turkish, is the unmistakable outline of what appears to be an ice-free Antarctica, complete with mountain ranges and coastal features not officially documented until the 20th century. But here's the chilling part. Satellite scans in the 1990s confirmed that underneath Antarctica's thick ice sheet, the landmass beneath matches the contours drawn on the Piri Reis map almost exactly. This shouldn't be possible. Not unless someone, long before the Ottomans, long before Columbus, had access to aerial mapping or seafaring technology advanced enough to navigate ice-free waters around the South Pole over 6,000 years ago. And that's not even the strangest part. Reis claimed his map wasn't entirely his own. He compiled it from older charts, some of which he described as being drawn by ancient seafarers who could see the coasts from high above. High above. That phrase alone invites the mind to wander. Did ancient civilizations once possess cartographic knowledge far beyond what we give them credit for? Or was it something, or someone else? Some researchers, like Charles Hapgood, believe that Antarctica was once home to an advanced pre-ice age civilization, a continent not always buried in ice, but once fertile and populated. They argue that a rapid crustal shift or cataclysmic event, possibly the one theorized during the Younger Dryas period, froze the land nearly overnight, preserving structures beneath layers of glacial cover. And while mainstream science remains cautious, it can't deny certain anomalies. Radar scans from international research bases have shown strange, geometrically aligned formations buried deep beneath the ice in East Antarctica. Some appear too angular, too precise to be natural. Of course, officials quickly dismissed these findings as glacial distortions or instrument misreadings. But here's where the older generation might pause. You've lived through Operation High Jump, haven't you? In 1946, just after World War II, the United States launched a massive military expedition to Antarctica, 4,700 troops, battleships, aircraft carriers, and not for research but strategic reconnaissance. Some believe they found something they weren't supposed to. The expedition was cut short, classified reports were filed, and Antarctica was never seen the same again. To this day, large swaths of the continent are sealed off under international treaty, off-limits to civilians, media, and most nations. Ask yourself, why would the coldest, most desolate place on Earth require global secrecy? What lies beneath the ice that demands silence? Could it be ancient ruins, prehistoric blueprints, or evidence that we were never the first to walk this Earth? The Piri Reis map isn't just paper and ink. It's a message, one that challenges the very idea of progress, that says maybe, just maybe, we are the ones catching up. But we're not done yet, because while some cities are buried in snow, others are carved into the earth, then sealed off by time. And our next mystery? It lies not in frost, but in shadow and stone, beneath the ground, where thousands once lived in silence. Beneath the ancient city of Mardin, Turkey, hidden beneath homes, mosques, and cobbled streets, lies something almost no one knew was there. A city within a city, but this one carved underground. Discovered only recently, this subterranean labyrinth may be the largest underground city ever found, capable of housing an estimated 70,000 people. And no one, not even the locals, knew it was under their feet. The tunnels go deep, hallways stretch for miles. Chambers, kitchens, water wells, stables, even what appear to be religious sanctuaries. This wasn't a refuge thrown together in haste. It was a planned city, functional, organized, protected. But protected from what? The official narrative points to invading forces. The region has long been a battleground for empires. Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman. So perhaps this was a place to hide during war, a bunker against destruction. But that explanation doesn't sit right with everyone. Because this wasn't just a few hidden rooms. It's an architectural marvel, far more advanced than what was believed possible at the time of its construction. Ventilation systems that still function. Sealed stone doors weighing tons. Engineering that required both planning and purpose. And the biggest question remains, why was it abandoned? There's no record of mass evacuation. No clear signs of disaster. Just silence. Dust. Rooms left as if the occupants simply vanished. Archaeologists are cautious, piecing together fragments. But locals tell older stories, passed down in whispers. Tales of the jinn, spirits said to live underground. Of dark winds that stole voices. Of cities that sealed themselves shut, not to keep danger out, but to keep something in. Some speculate these underground cities connect across Anatolia, forming a hidden network built by a forgotten civilization, one that may have survived a cataclysm above ground. If that's true, it changes everything we think we know about ancient migration, survival, and intelligence. Why were these cities forgotten? Or worse, erased? And why do governments so often restrict excavation once these places are found? Maybe it's just bureaucracy. Maybe it's something else. And just when you think the earth can't hold any more secrets, you learn there's a fortress, not hidden below, but jutting defiantly into the sea. Place that never fell, and still refuses to explain how. Let's head to India, where ancient cannons still face the ocean, and legends are carved into the walls. Rising out of the Arabian Sea like a defiant monolith, the Marud Janjira fortress is one of the only forts in history that has never been conquered. Not by pirates, not by the Portuguese, not even by the mighty British Empire. For centuries, this island citadel, its name roughly translating to Fort of the Sea, stood as an impenetrable guardian of India's western coastline. Surrounded on all sides by churning waves and high stone walls, it was home to cannons once powerful enough to sink approaching ships before they even neared the shore. Today, only 3 of those colossal cannons remain, silent and rusting, still pointed out to sea as if waiting for an enemy that never came. But there's more to Janjira than just its military might. No one knows who first built it. The earliest records don't match the architecture. Some scholars suggest it may predate even the Siddhis, an African-descended people who later ruled it and fortified it further. But the original foundation is a mystery. Legends speak of hidden tunnels beneath the sea, sealed vaults, and symbols etched into stone that resemble celestial alignments. Some claim the fort once housed sacred scrolls, smuggled away from threatened temples on the mainland, kept hidden within its limestone heart. Tourists today walk across its weather-beaten pathways, unaware of what lies beneath their feet. The ocean has eaten away at some of the lower walls, yet the structure still stands, stoic, unbeaten, secretive. Even modern archaeologists have been baffled by its design. The water reservoirs inside the fort contain fresh water, despite being entirely surrounded by salt. Was it clever engineering or something older? Then there's the question of the sea itself. Fishermen whisper that on certain moonless nights, strange lights flicker around the base of the fort, that the waves grow still, unnaturally still, as if listening. A few even claim to have seen shadowy figures walking the battlements, though the island was emptied long ago. Like many ancient strongholds, Marud Janjira may have protected more than land. It may have guarded knowledge, the kind not meant to be taken. So what really happened there? Why has no ruler ever claimed it? And what secrets are still hidden behind those walls, waiting for a moment or a visitor brave enough to dig deeper? We've looked at structures hidden in mountains, beneath cities, and now at sea. But in our next story, we head to a place where secrecy isn't built by stone, but but by silence. A town where lights flicker in the sky, and no one knows why. And for decades, no one dares ask. At first glance, Bonnybridge looks like any other quiet Scottish town. Stone cottages, rolling hills, narrow streets where people know their neighbors by name. But above this peaceful town, something watches, and sometimes something descends. Since the early 1990s, Bonnybridge has become known as the UFO capital of the world. Yes, the world. Locals report hundreds of sightings each year, strange lights, triangular crafts, and unexplained hovering objects that appear without warning, then vanish just as quickly. More than a few claim to have lost time minutes, sometimes hours after encountering these lights. The government has investigated. Air traffic controllers have been questioned. Military bases nearby have denied any operations. And yet, the lights continue. Some call it hysteria. Others call it mass delusion. But for the residents of Bonnybridge, it's part of their lives. Entire families have reported sightings across generations. A retired police officer once said, "I know what a plane looks like. I know what a drone looks like. This wasn't either. So what is it?" Some researchers believe the area sits on a unique geological fault line, creating electromagnetic anomalies that interfere with instruments and perception. Others believe Bonnybridge lies along an ancient ley line, an energetic artery that attracts more than just folklore. And then there are those who think it's not the town at all, but the people being watched. Because here's where it gets stranger. A disproportionate number of locals report dreams, similar dreams. A dark room, a blinding light, a feeling of being examined. Many awaken with bruises or marks they can't explain. When a local council member once wrote to the British government demanding answers, he received none. No official inquiry, no explanation, just silence. For decades, Bonnybridge has lived in the shadow of an invisible visitor, one that doesn't ask for permission, one that never leaves a trace. Skeptics scoff, officials avoid the subject. But for those who've looked up on a clear night sky over the hills, it's not a question of belief. It's a matter of witness. What are we looking at? What's looking back? And why, in this one small place on Earth, does the sky seem so active? As we leave the misty air of Scotland behind, our next mystery takes us into the depths of human endurance, where survival wasn't a miracle, but a punishment. Because buried in the ruins of an ancient arena, the bones of warriors still whisper their names. In the heart of ancient Cilicia, now southern Turkey, lies the forgotten city of Anavarza, a place once teeming with Roman splendor, wealth, and war. But beyond its broken columns and sun-bleached ruins, there is something far more chilling buried in its soil. The tombs of gladiators, unearthed near the remains of a Roman arena. These burial sites tell a story not of glory, but of brutality. These weren't noble soldiers. They were enslaved men, trained to kill for entertainment. Yet in death they were given honor, some even buried with their weapons, their bones arranged with careful ritual. But here's what's strange. The tombs are larger than expected, many larger than modern graves, with signs of repeated injury, bone regrowth, and surgical precision. Some had limbs that had been broken multiple times, healed, then broken again. The life of a gladiator wasn't short. It was prolonged by force, for spectacle. Inscriptions found near the tombs offer fragments of names. Verus, Thrax, Diodorus, not heroes in their time, merchandise. Yet the reverence in their burial suggests something changed. Were these men feared, or were they worshipped? The deeper archaeologists dug, the more questions surfaced. Several tombs contain artifacts from distant lands, helmets shaped in Greek style, trinkets from Egypt, blades forged in Gaul. These fighters were not local. They were imported, displayed, discarded. But some graves didn't match any known format. One in particular was sealed with lead-lined stone, a technique never used in the region. Inside, a body twice the size of a typical Roman male, its teeth filed flat, its hands twisted as if in agony. Local folklore speaks of iron men, warriors taken by the gods after spilling too much blood. Some believe these legends aren't myths, but memories of a genetic experiment. Enhanced men bred not just for combat, but for survival beyond it. Could the Romans have stumbled onto something darker? Recent imaging beneath the arena reveals a subchamber, yet to be excavated. For now, it remains sealed, but some whispers claim it's where the first gladiators were made, not trained. The gladiator games were a spectacle, but what if they were also a test? A test to find what was just human enough to bleed, but strong enough to make crowds cheer at the violence. From the sands of the arena to the bones beneath our feet, Anavarza reminds us that history often glorifies the fight, but buries the truth with the fighter. And in our next story, the land offers something older, more massive, more silent. Across the oceans, we uncover a field of giant stone jars, standing for centuries with no known origin, no clear purpose, and possibly no human explanation. Deep in the remote jungles of northeast India, scattered across misty hillsides and forgotten forests, stand hundreds of massive stone jars, each one carved from solid rock, each one standing silently for over 2,000 years or perhaps longer. This is Assam's megalithic mystery. Some jars are small enough to be mistaken for storage pots. Others tower over a grown man, nearly 10 feet tall and weighing several tons. And they're not placed in random fashion. They appear in clusters on hills, in valleys, always overlooking something, as if they were meant to be seen from above. But here's the problem. No one knows who made them, or why. There are no inscriptions, no tools left behind, no records in local legend or ancient texts, and the most unsettling discovery? Human remains. In and around some of the jars, archaeologists have found fragments of bone, teeth, and charred ash, suggesting some kind of ritual burial or cremation practice. But even then, it's unclear whether the jars were built for the dead or used by someone long after their creators were gone. Similar jars were found in Laos, the famous plain of jars, but the connection is uncertain. Were these part of a widespread prehistoric culture, trade, or did multiple civilizations across Asia simply arrive at the same strange idea? Some locals believe the jars were left by giants. Others speak of sky gods who drank from the vessels and carried away the souls of the departed. One jar, in particular, stands alone on a cliff edge, impossible to reach without modern tools. Its smooth lid is still sealed. No one's opened it. Officials have debated whether it should be moved, studied, preserved, or left alone, because there are some in the region who say breaking the seal would invite misfortune, that what sleeps inside should not be disturbed, and maybe, in a world so eager to uncover and explain, there's wisdom in that restraint. The jars remain, silent, watching, each one like a question carved in stone. Who made them? What were they for? And what did those ancient people fear so deeply? They needed stone to guard it, because sometimes the loudest voices from the past don't speak in words. They just sit there, weathered by rain and wind, and dare us to understand. High above the fertile plains of Thessaly, where clouds scrape ancient stone and modern roads fade into goat paths, archaeologists have uncovered a city that shouldn't exist where it does, or in the condition they found it. Perched on the summit of a rugged peak now called Castro Calathea, this settlement was first noticed by drone surveys only a few years ago. What looked at ground level like random terraces turned out from above to be a perfectly ordered grid of streets, foundations, temples, and defensive walls, all laid out some 2,500 years ago. No chronicles mention its name. No classical historian lists it among the famous polis. Yet the masonry speaks of skilled builders, and the shards of imported pottery hint at trade networks that stretched across the Aegean. Someone up here commanded wealth and purpose. But why build so high, where water is scarce and winters cut like knives? One theory says the city was a sanctuary town, a place of refuge during the uneasy years when Macedon rose and city-states fell. Another suggests it was a spiritual acropolis, set apart for mystery rites now lost to memory. Then, abruptly, it was abandoned around the time Rome tightened its grip on Greece. There are no layers of conquest ash, no mass graves, no signs of fire. The inhabitants seem to have walked away in an orderly silence, locking stone doors behind them and leaving altars intact, as if expecting to return. They never did. Wind now whistles through roofless halls where assembly speeches once echoed. Mosaic fragments lie open to the sun. Even the cistern system, ingeniously cut into bedrock, still catches rain that nobody drinks. Some locals whisper the mountain is Temenos ground, sacred, untouchable, and that disturbing it wakes old guardians. Others note a puzzling lack of metal artifacts, wondering if valuables were removed in advance, or never existed, because the city's true wealth wasn't gold at all. Whatever drove the builders skyward, and whatever drew them back down, remains locked in the limestone. Excavations continue, but the mountain keeps its secrets, offering only the view. Endless valleys below, where new empires once marched and old gods watched from the heights. And just when a lone Greek citadel feels extraordinary, we remember, halfway across the world, entire landscapes of royal tombs rise like earthen pyramids, monuments so vast that a modern superpower prefers they stay hidden from sight. In the rolling hills near Shangze, China, amid thick mists and government silence, a series of vast earthen structures rises quietly from the land. They don't bear signs. There are no tour buses, no postcard stands, and yet each mound carries the unmistakable geometry of a pyramid. These are not natural formations. They were built deliberately, precisely, and on a colossal scale. Some of these earth pyramids are believed to be royal tombs, possibly dating back over 2,000 years to the early emperors of the Qin and Han dynasties. Yet what's striking isn't just their size, but how carefully they've been hidden in plain sight. Unlike Egypt's golden monuments or Mesoamerican temples, China's pyramids are shrouded, both physically by overgrowth and politically by restriction. Satellite imagery has revealed dozens, some larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, yet official excavation is tightly controlled or outright forbidden. Why? Some believe it's to protect the dead, per ancient Chinese tradition. Others think it's more about protecting information, secrets of dynasties, technologies, or perhaps even pre-dynastic knowledge not found in history books. And then there's the mystery of alignment. Many of these pyramids are oriented not just to cardinal directions, but to celestial bodies. One massive tomb near Xi'an aligns perfectly with the constellation Orion, just like the pyramids of Giza. Coincidence? Or evidence of a lost understanding of the stars that spanned continents? According to unverified reports, one site once uncovered a sealed chamber beneath a pyramid filled with mercury, mirroring legends of the first emperor's tomb described in the ancient text records of the Grand Historian. That tomb, believed to be near the Terracotta Army, remains unopened to this day, possibly due to the dangerous levels of mercury detected in the surrounding soil. But what secrets lie within these structures that modern authorities choose not to reveal? Is it fear of damaging history, or fear of what history actually contains? Foreign researchers have been repeatedly denied access. Domestic teams rarely publish findings. And drone footage of certain mounds has vanished mysteriously from online archives. So the pyramids remain, not ruins but sleeping giants, covered in grass, rooted in silence, watching as the world forgets, or is made to forget. But their shape betrays their purpose. They were meant to last forever, which begs the question, if these monuments were designed to carry a message through time, what message are we not allowed to read? And if ancient kings could shape the earth into symbols visible from the sky, what else did they leave behind, hidden, waiting for us to rediscover? Across the grassy plains and ancient hills of South Africa's Mpumalanga province lies a mystery far older and far more complex than most have dared to imagine. Locals call them the Bone Ruins. But they're not made of bone. They're made of stone, millions of them, circular foundations, endless walls, interconnected patterns that stretch across hundreds of kilometers, blending into the landscape like the ruins of a civilization swallowed by time. For decades, these formations were dismissed as nothing more than old cattle enclosures from the colonial era. But aerial photography and satellite imagery revealed something far more astonishing. This wasn't random placement. These ruins formed a massive grid, an entire cityscape spread over a region that could have supported hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. And the kicker? Some estimates date these ruins back over 10,000 years. That would make them older than the pyramids, older than Stonehenge, older than recorded history. The ruins are attributed to the mysterious Baconi people, known for terraced agriculture and stoneworking. But what's strange is how advanced this network appears. Sophisticated farming systems, astronomical alignments, and a layout that suggests deliberate planning on a grand scale. Even stranger, the entire region seems to resonate with electromagnetic energy. Some researchers claim that when tested, certain stone circles produce measurable sound frequencies, tones not unlike those used in harmonic resonance or energy transmission. Is it pseudoscience? Or a glimpse into a forgotten science our ancestors once mastered? Then there's Adam's Calendar, a nearby megalithic site some believe served as an ancient observatory. 2. Upright stones still mark the solstices, and the alignment suggests a knowledge of the stars thousands of years ahead of its time. But official archaeology is cautious, funding is scarce, and deep exploration has been slow. Why? Some whisper it's because these ruins don't fit the accepted timeline of human civilization. Because if they are what they appear to be, the remnants of a thriving, technologically capable culture long before Egypt or Mesopotamia, then the entire story of human development must be rewritten. And who gets to decide what stories are told and which ones stay buried? Here in the bone ruins, the stones speak, but we're only just learning to listen. And what they might be saying is simple yet terrifying. We were not the first, and maybe we're not the last. Stone doesn't speak, not in the way we do. It doesn't shout or sing. It doesn't write its memories in books or on film, but it remembers every fracture, every fire, every footstep. From the mist-veiled hills of Scotland to the high plateaus of South Africa, we've walked through the bones of ancient worlds, cities built with intention, then left behind in silence. We've uncovered pyramids hidden beneath earth, not just to protect the dead, but perhaps to protect the living. Tombs that weren't looted but sealed, jars that weren't containers but markers, and ruins that don't just whisper stories of who came before, but who might come again. Maybe these weren't warnings carved in stone. Maybe they were instructions, clues, or reminders of what happens when a civilization climbs too high, too fast, only to collapse under the weight of its own power. And here we are, centuries later, walking through them, not as archaeologists, but as future ruins trying to read our own fate in the past. So ask yourself, are we walking through someone else's past, or a preview of our own future? Every stone has a story, every mountain has a memory, and the more we uncover, the more we realize how much we've forgotten. But perhaps it's not too late to listen. If this journey stirred something in you, curiosity, unease, or maybe a feeling you've been here before, then don't let it end here. Subscribe to Uncharted Mysteries. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what you believe or what you've seen. And be sure to explore our full playlist of unexplained stories from the shadows of history. Because next time, we're going deeper, and it changes everything.